And then later on, we told you about the pandemonium that ensued in Imo State, where a Labour Party representative expressed his displeasure as regards how elections went down in terms of the results that were announced in the state. And now I have Chidi Omeje, who is a security expert, who will be talking to us in that regards. Now, Chidi, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so first, what were the key security challenges that you noticed in Bayelsa, Imo, and Kogi states leading up to and during the off-cycle elections? Because we heard some people who said they were not satisfied with the conduct of security operators or security personnel at these polling units. Some actually accused them of being complicit. What do you think of this?
I don't know if you're hearing me because the network is actually playing up. But back to your question, I think that the common, challenge we all noticed, in the three, the police were not on top of the situation. I was on this program on Friday, and I did mention that that the real problem we're going to have is the effectiveness of the policing efforts in the elections. We all know that the police is the lead agency in election security, and from what I've seen, in Imo State, Kogi State, Bayelsa State, you cannot say that the police, was in their best practice. You saw obvious partisanship. Take, for instance, in Imo State, you saw a particular, police officer, being mentioned all the time. It's called him kill and dry. Now you have such a character in the Nigerian police force who had, who have been reported to have compromised election security in a number of places. So what I'm trying to say is that indeed the police did not live up to expectation. And I for one, this thing I talked about it on Friday. I said, look, the police, if we're going to have a free, fair, and credible election, police efforts must come to play. If they do not, act very professional, if they do not act without bias, if they do not act without being partisan, then it's something else. So we saw it play around to Kogi State. So I am thinking that this is actually a clear referendum on the ability, on the capability and integrity of Nigerian police as a lead agency in election security. I'm not impressed with their efforts, and I think that Nigerians who have watched the voting know that indeed the security, security was not really optimal in this election. That's my initial response.
Okay, you said that you are not too impressed about the security provision at these polling units in the different states. But then let's just quickly touch on electoral violence. Were security issues less dramatic than you anticipated when you do a comparison between these off-cycle elections and what's played out during the February 2023 general elections?
I'm really having a challenge here. The network is very bad. I did not really. I can't piece up the.
Okay, so actually, I asked.
The network is very bad.
Yes, Chidi, I actually asked about looking at electoral violence now as regards what played out in the off-cycle elections compared to the February general elections. Would you say that security issues were less dramatic if you do a comparison between those two election periods?
Oh, okay. Okay, I get your question. Fine, I get your question right. Let me tell you, one would have even expected that the off-cycle election would be easier to manage because you have just about 3 states to handle. But it does appear to me that it's even a worse scenario, that the police were clearly unable to handle the situation in just 3 states. So we begin to wonder if it was not even easier to conduct the election. I mean, to get off this so-called off-cycle election, because from recent past we've seen that the role is always very problematic, in spite of the fact that the police will tell you that they're going to deploy thousands of men. DSS will say they will deploy civil defense said they would deploy, the military would say they would complement, all those claims. At the end of the day, you see that the whole thing is a mess. It was it's a shambolic election that is very clear to everybody. I do not know how, the INEC or the police will beat their chest and say they did a good job in this election. You saw thugs cutting away polling boxes. You saw thugs beating up voters. You saw thugs dealing with party representatives. This is not how elections are supposed to be conducted. So I think that, if you want to compare this off-cycle election and the general election, one would even want to say that it was better, in the general election. This off-cycle election that was supposed to be easier to control and manage turned out to be even much more terrible. So I'm pretty much disappointed in the effort of the police, not just the police, but the entire gamut of security apparatus that handled the election.
Chidi, let's move forward now and look at the solutions. Some people said that the heavy presence of the police, most especially in Imo State, resulted in a bit of apprehension on the part of the would-be voters, and voter apathy came into play. So now, number one, how do we ensure adequate security during electoral processes? And how do we now balance between provision of security and ensuring that people are not scared to come out and exercise their franchise?
Well, it will be difficult. Honestly, the question is a little bit, difficult also because ordinarily you would say that election ought to be a very civil exercise, very peaceful exercise. But we have seen it clearly that, throughout the period we are doing elections, electoral polling booths have turned out to be more like battlegrounds. It's not supposed to be so, but that is the reality. So personally, I don't agree. I do not, subscribe to the idea of sending policemen without arms to man, a very rancorous election. As it is now, I haven't seen that, these politicians are always desperate and devious and are ready to compromise the integrity of the election. I think there has to be a level of, weaponization of these policemen to be able to handle the situation, so that if talks come, police should be able to ward off. I know about what we call outer security and the inner security. The outer security, outer periphery, where the military guys operate, you would think that, it would be difficult for talks to come into the polling booths because you have the outer security. But every now and then you see them actually storming polling booths, cutting away polling boxes. So it does not give the voter that confidence. I will not blame anybody if tomorrow you decide not to come for election, because
Chidi,
you see that it's almost like a battleground.
Chidi, thank you so much. Chidi Omeje, security expert, thank you so much for shedding your answers with us. Thank you.